What if I told you there's 10 warning signs inside your marriage that if left unchecked will put you on a direct path toward divorce and repeating the same cycle over and over again? I've worked with over 5,000 high-achieving men who dominate in business yet still end up blindsided in their marriage, even though there were signs the entire time. And in this video, I'm covering exactly what those 10 proven warning signs are and what to do about each one of them before it's too late. So make sure you watch until the end because most of the signs I'm about to cover don't look obvious. And that's why so many men miss them. And let's not have you be another casualty. So let's start with the first warning sign. Sign number 1, you avoid emotional conversations. You might think you're keeping the peace by avoiding conflict, but she experiences it as weakness. And to be honest, if you're afraid of upsetting her, you're not leading her. You can't lead someone you're afraid to upset. Avoiding emotional conversations doesn't make you mature or calm. It actually signals a lack of emotional leadership, that you can't handle it. And that's a major warning sign because a woman cannot respect a man she feels that she can emotionally dominate. So when you stay silent, resentment quietly builds on both sides. Emotional distance replaces connection. She stops feeling emotionally led or protected. Small issues turn into deep unresolved tension. And as a man, an emotional conversation isn't something you're supposed to avoid. It's actually something you're supposed to confront and lead. And again, this isn't about becoming emotional. It's about taking the right actions so you can participate without losing control and actually create progress, and not just in your marriage, but in every area of your life we're going to cover inside this video. So emotional leadership as a man looks like this: facing the hard talks. You can't fix what you won't confront. Lean into tension. Don't walk around it. Don't allow her negative mood to cause you to live in fear and walk on eggshells. If your solution to tension is staying busy, well, the problem isn't getting solved. It's being postponed and procrastinated. Which brings us to the second warning sign. Warning sign number 2, you stay productive to avoid her reactions. Now, it's good to work hard and build a future, but if you're doing it to avoid responsibility at home, you're sabotaging your marriage. And from her perspective, you're just emotionally unavailable and distracting yourself. And it's actually making things worse. Why? Because she no longer feels prioritized. She thinks you don't think it's important. Distance signals avoidance, not stability. The more you disappear, the less safe she actually feels emotionally. And over time, she stops seeing you as a grounded leader and starts seeing you as absent. Your wife doesn't follow effort, she follows presence, consistency. And here's the truth a lot of guys miss or don't want to admit. Your wife will not follow or respect you if you don't respect yourself. When she becomes disrespectful, your job isn't to retreat or explode, it's to stay grounded and take control. Grounded men respond by staying calm and regulating themselves before reacting. They don't match emotions. They instead set the tone. They stay calm under pressure instead of withdrawing. So you need to reclaim your presence and schedule intentional time for real connection. Don't be afraid of her saying no and rejecting you. What's worse is actually not asking and not having clarity and living in your head for 3 to 4 days because you feared that she would shut you down. So stop reacting and living in fear and start leading with clarity. You can do this. And that's how you break the same destructive cycles that your marriage keeps repeating over and over again. Because once you take decisive action, you'll finally start to see real change. Not temporary relief, not surface level fixes, real change. And that's exactly where Dave was, stuck in constant tension and feeling like he was losing control in his marriage. But after joining the private community, he learned how to lead with clarity instead of reacting emotionally and built a deep connection with his wife. Yeah, he did it. And it's not just him inside the community. There are countless other men rebuilding their marriages and becoming stronger leaders in every area of life. So if you're ready to take action, if you need help, check out the private community or some of our free resources by clicking the link in the description. But for now, let's move into warning sign number 3. Sign number 3, you placate her when she escalates. So the next thing to watch out for here is when disrespect shows up, you need to ensure that your response is not to shut down or give in. Because if you do without realizing it, you're actually teaching her that dysfunctional behavior works. You're enabling her. When you appease instead of lead, here's what it conditions her to do. Escalate faster because she knows you'll fold. She knows it works. You're rewarding that behavior. She loses respect for your boundaries. She pushes harder emotionally to regain control. And she doesn't calm down because you give in. So she escalates because it works. Leadership in these moments doesn't mean yelling, arguing, or dominating. It means staying calm, firm, unmoved, even when emotions rise. Wounded women test boundaries to feel safety and strength. Emotional pressure is often a test of your stability. It's not an attack. So stop taking it personal. Your wife is hurt and afraid. So in your mind, think hurt and fear, hurt and fear. Strong men don't rush to fix emotions. They stay present and steady. But when you don't hold your frame, arguments don't de-escalate. They turn into battles. And that brings us us to warning sign number 4. Sign number 4, every disagreement feels like a power struggle. What's common in most failing marriages is this: the husband allows his wife's negative reactions to bring out the worst in him. The moment you feel like you're fighting her instead of fighting for her, respect starts to disappear. And this is how it plays out. Trust erodes fast. You react, she reacts harder. Nothing gets resolved, and the conflict only escalates from there. So the shift is simple. Stay grounded. Do not match her chaos. Control your reactions before trying to control the situation, because you can only control 3 things: how you think, how you feel, and how you act. Trying to control anything other than those 3 things is just a form of insanity. Calm authority stabilizes the interaction faster than force ever will. Don't let reactivity destroy your leadership or your respect. Now let's cover the 5th warning sign. Warning sign number 5, you feel like roommates, not partners. A problem I see in marriages is that when couples interact, it feels like roommates talking and not intimate partners. That disconnection turns into indifference, and indifference is what ends most marriages. When it starts feeling like a roommate situation, it's because intimacy and emotional presence are already gone. Now, some signs you might notice within your own marriage are the following. Conversations become logical. Touch is rare. You live in the same house, built on separate islands. What's missing in the relationship isn't effort, it's actually connection. So you need to rebuild emotional intimacy before physical intimacy. And inside Beyond Driven's Total Breakthrough Academy, we help you do this by building back what we call the empathy bridge. Now, let's talk about warning sign number 6. You resent her more than you respect her. Resentment is something no marriage survives. Contempt is the number 1 leading cause of divorce. So when you start assuming the worst about her and then avoiding her because everything feels like a trigger, resentment is only going to turn the relationship into a full-blown war. Most resentment doesn't come from one big moment. It actually comes from times where you interpret everything as an attack, where small issues turn into constant tension, where emotional safety disappears. But see, strong men shift how they interpret the situation. So start asking yourself this: what else could this mean? What might she be feeling right now? See, curiosity is the antidote to contempt. Now, let's talk about the next sign. Warning sign number 7, small issues become major blowups. If you're constantly on edge and even minor comments feel like attacks, it's natural to fire back immediately, but that reaction is going to create a pattern, and it leads to this. Minor disagreements turn into full-blown arguments, conversations escalate instead of resolving, and no one feels heard. And when this is happening, frequent blowups don't just stay arguments. They actually turn into emotional instability and avoidance. And brother, that has to be addressed. So here's how to regain control inside these moments. Slow the response. Create a pause before reacting. Bridge the gap between stimulus and response. Take a breath. Stay present. Remember, not everything needs a response. Next is warning sign number 8, and stick around. You don't want to miss number 10. You feel misunderstood or unappreciated. If you're the one building, providing, and carrying responsibility, but you never feel appreciated, the marriage starts to starve, because even when you're doing everything you can, it still feels like no matter what you do, it's never enough. Your effort goes unnoticed. You feel emasculated instead of respected. And that is a very common sign men and their wives overlook. A lot of men believe their job is to carry the weight silently and provide, fix, and push through. But see, provision without connection eventually breeds resentment. What actually helps here is this: voicing your needs without guilt. But you need to know what your needs are first. Appreciation is created through clarity and grounded vulnerability. So you need to be honest. Vulnerability is the portal to true transformation. If you don't get honest, you're not going to get better. And neither will your marriage. Now, let's move on to warning sign number 9. You assume the worst intent. You both take everything out of context. You can't fix a marriage if you're interpreting everything through pain. When you project your fears and pain and walk into conversations preparing to defend yourself instead of trying to understand, every attempt at connection feels like a threat. So anytime your wife wants to talk, you assume something bad is going to happen. So you're already walking in to defend, not to listen. You're not actually hearing her or being ready to hear her. You're listening to respond. And you're responding to imagined intentions and motives instead of what's actually being said. See, fear-based interpretation always creates distance. It turns conversations into battles and connection into conflict. The correction is simple, but it's powerful. Replace assumption with investigation. Ask good questions. The most powerful men don't always think the most powerful thoughts. They ask themselves and others the most powerful questions. So don't react to fear. Slow down. Ask better questions. Choose clarity over defense. I mean, let me ask you this. How does it feel when people ask you questions about things you talk about? Well, it makes you feel like they care, right? I know, novel concept, right? Drum roll, please. Here we go. Sign number 10, you've stopped repairing after conflict. When a fight between you and your wife goes unresolved, it doesn't disappear. It sits there for days and eventually comes out sideways. And this happens all the time. You start to sleep in different rooms, you go to bed angry, you avoid each other instead of addressing it, you become passive aggressive, you stonewall, give each other the silent treatment as a way to try to punish each other. You wait for the other person to make the first move. You're at the Alamo, and if we're being honest, it gets you nowhere. It's childish. Unresolved conflict doesn't fade, it decays the relationship. And so many guys think that to fix their marriage, they need to decrease the negativity. When in reality, you don't need to decrease negativity as much as increase positivity. Conflict is inevitable, but becoming good at repairing, well, that's a skill set. And when repair stops happening, it's a clear sign that the marriage isn't headed in a healthy direction. This is obvious. So here's the reality a lot of guys need to hear, and I hope you're still listening. Leadership means repairing first, not being right. Waiting it out isn't strength, it's sweeping it under the rug. Apologies don't make you weak, they make you confident enough to actually give one. So look, if you see yourself in even 3 of those 10 signs, don't wait for things to get worse to make a difference, because marriages don't break in one moment, they erode through silence, avoidance, and resentment. So look, if you're interested in actually taking action, make sure to apply for our private community with the link in the description. Inside, you'll get a proven framework for rebuilding your marriage, along with direct one-on-one support to help you apply it and actually see results. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.